Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Talking of Stations for Thursday, September the 16th. I am Rundle Allnighter here with you tonight. Thanks for joining. I have a guest with me. His name is MDD. Say hello, MDD.
Hello. Hi there.
Excellent. And I have Manicsar in the background, giving a little engineering work, and he'll maybe jump in with some questions as well. And hoping for some audience participation. We're going to kind of talk about cruising around HiSec with a kind of a cruise director. That's where MDD's segment will come in. We'll talk to him about that. We've got a bit of news first, so we'll cover the news and get to the interview in due time. All right, so more patches because of the kind of influx of changes with the skill panel and the skill training section and the new user experience. Let's kind of talk a little bit about those patch notes. Apparently they fixed an issue in the new player experience where incorrect ship icons were shown for NPCs. Bad, they should have caught that. There was a technical issue where that was causing decreased performance when creating or editing large skill plans. Interestingly enough, one of their key features, I would have thought they would have tested that. You can kind of see where my attitude right away is. Not super happy with these many kind of problems that are either user interface based or technical, but that's my own personal editorial. But anyways. On the user interface side, there's a lot here. They caused a skill plan description link to report incorrect values. These are all things they fixed. Fixed an issue causing the total training time in the milestone tooltip not to be properly updated when you increase the milestones level. They fixed an issue preventing players from dragging the expanded character sheet window using the top right corner of the character portrait. How did I miss that one? Fixed an issue causing a total amount of skill points not to show up on the character sheet. Okay, interesting. Fixed the issue where removing skills related to milestone didn't remove the milestone. Fixed an issue that very rarely caused the UI to freeze for a few seconds when scrolling through a long training queue. And another issue was fixed that caused the station services panel to sometimes appear over the skill planner. Sometimes the skill plan would appear as completed when the requirements had not been met. Okay, that could have been embarrassing. And they also fixed something that allowed for the buy skill book pop-up warning to be suppressible, which would then lead to situations where a missing skill book could be purchased accidentally. Okay, so you don't want to buy it, but congratulations, you just bought it, and who knows where you would have bought it, because I suspect my gut feeling would be that buy skill book just bought at the top of the list or something and not in station. So
I didn't want the Amar Titan skill book.
Yeah, 16 jumps away in 16 jumps away in low sec or something, right?
Oh wait, the what is it? The Orca skill book is out in deep in drone lands or something. It's one of those
crazy thing. Yeah, so they also fixed an issue that sometimes caused character sheets to open with missing tabs using the Clone Bay button on the station's services panel. Fixed an issue in rare instances causing skills to not unlock correctly after purchasing the skill book. So you buy it and now you don't even get to train it. That's fantastic. Caused the skill names not to appear in the skill plan context at
Which
all.
skill is this? Skill number 1, skill number 2.
Yeah, you should get a skill on using the skill planner. Issue that caused the skill plan content to not scale properly when resizing the window. And finally, they fixed an issue that caused the skill plan label to not display correctly after opening a shared skill plan. So there's a litany of fixes that need to happen that happened today. Okay, so it happened a couple days. They went live. It took a couple days. I appreciate that they spent a lot of time, effort fixing these things. The bug reports were obviously coming in fast and furious because there's a lot of things they fixed, and there's probably going to be a lot more tomorrow and more going on.
Yeah, you got to look at the sunny side, the silver lining. They're actually working on it. They put a huge update to the whole skill plan mechanic, right? And they're going through and fixing it. That's the good news. The bad news is obviously nobody likes doing QC.
Yeah, I've had this comment before. I've made this comment before. I mean, my professional side is like, okay, I understand how hard testing is, and writing code. It's my life. It's software quality assurance. It's a bitch, but some of these errors are. I mean, I would be embarrassed. I frankly would be embarrassed. I understand you can't catch everything. An enormous number of people, machines, memory, what version you're at. There's a ton of shit that can cause these things to go wrong, especially when it comes to the UI, depending on what versions of everything you have in your system, blah blah blah. But I mean, come on, some of these are just, in my mind,
Embarrassing.
embarrassing. Now, little commentary again here. I wouldn't even have gone live because you missed the whole goddamn point of a training queue or a training book section of my thing. If I look at the new, skill thing, I can't even tell what the next skill is going to take in terms of the amount of time. Like maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I can't even figure out if I'm looking at a Mar Cruiser 5. I already have a Mar Cruiser 4. I have to drag it over to the plan to find out that it's 9 days, 13 hours or whatever, or I have to put it into some dummy skill queue or something. Like, that's bullshit. Just the old UI, meaning the old one less than 3 days ago, had the damn time there, which for me is probably the most important piece of information. What is this thing going to cost me in time? And you can't even show that to me anymore. I was done on Tuesday at that moment. I just kind of, all right, whatever. Maybe they'll fix it and I'll come back in a week or two. I felt really disappointed at that moment. I didn't even invest anything. I think I did one skill plan above 50 just because I just happened to have a character that was, my queue was ending in 2.5 hours. So I thought, all right, well, here, I'll grab 141 skills and drop it in and move on because I couldn't be bothered with this damn thing. Have either of you guys played with this thing yet?
Not much. I've played with it enough to be appalled.
Yeah, I think there's a few other people in chat, also concerned about the amount of errors, and I agree with Griff. Right, at this rate, they should be paying us to do their QC work. I think everyone should get 500 plex or something. Sounds about right to me.
Mhm.
All right, so that's the patch notes. Yeah, enough said on that. I'm gonna harp on it too much more, but we'll see tomorrow. Maybe they'll have 50 more fixes or something. All right, let's talk quickly about the monthly economic report here. It's been released today. I'm not going to go super in depth into this because right now, as we speak, many of the TIS brain trusts are working, tirelessly dissecting it, dividing it up. At least I certainly hope they are, because I'm telling you they are. But anyways, they're going to cover it next week. Someone's going to go through it next week on one of the shows, and so look for that. But for me, really quickly, kind of interested to see that this is August, right? And so um, kind of especially for Delve and for the war, it's the transition, the reglassing of Delve for the Imperium, taking over back everything and all those regions. There was lots of destruction, but so it still outpaced everything. But there was a kind of a leveling in terms of overall, like in bounties and stuff. Like you see Veil of the Silent, and now Delve jumped way up there on NPC bounties. So literally, Imperium wins, the Pappy leaves, and they go right back to crabbing and kick the shit out of Delve, and literally, like, just over a month, just boom, just started getting the money back in their pockets. Interestingly enough, there's a way down at the bottom, there's a kind of where is the ISK live graph. I think it's third or fourth from bottom, so it's called money supply. And it tracks, where's the money? Is it in corporations or is it in characters? And in the month of August, there's a significant uptick in character ISK amount. I thought those are kind of two interesting things. Hopefully the people who are going to cover it later on next week are going to dig deeper into that. Maybe I'll try and join them for that. But those are two things that just jumped out at me. Not sure if anyone has had a chance to look at this in the audience. or if you Manicsars looked at it. But those are two interesting things that jumped out at me. All right. We'll let the audience, Manicsar has linked it to you. And if you're listening on YouTube, I'll let you go find it. You just need to search CCP Eve Monthly Economic Report August, and you'll be able to find it.
It was showing up for the launcher for me, so I mean, it's right on the
yeah,
front
it's in
page.
launcher right now. True, right? That's right. Right now, it's in the launcher. That's right. A little bit more news here. This is just kind of happening right now. Right now, there is a thread out on the Eve forums. There is a CSM member in hot water over comments made on the Eve forum towards females. There's lots to read here. The person in question, it's not his first time, not even his second time being in trouble for various things. I think this is kind of a bit of a not surprised kind of thing by a number of players towards, in terms of this person. So we'll see how it all plays out. There's I don't know. It's disappointing. I think that's where I want to say. That's really what I guess I'm trying to say in a nice, polite way, but I'm not going to be polite about it. It's just disappointing that he's, continued to do this. Yeah, it's just shitty. It's unnecessary. I will link that in the chat for people if they want to go over and read it. So, all right, Valmir, it's Brisk Ruble. There, I'll just say it. Fuck it. I was going to try and be nice, but I've been thinking about this for the last half hour. Do I need to be nice? Do I need to try to protect the person and play the higher road and just say, oh, it's a CSM member? And yeah, just now talking about it, I think I'm still kind of pissy about it. There's no need for this type of bullshit, frankly. So anyway, it's my own personal attitude towards it. So anyways, there we go. Yeah, Steve, right? No need to be nice. All right. So I linked it. You can go on over and read it for yourself. We'll see how this plays out over the next little while. I suspect, here's my gut feeling. I think the CCP is not going to be able to not say something or do something. That would be my gut feeling on this. I think it's important enough that they're going to have to take a stand. So
I'm not up to speed on the CSM agreement that they have to sign, to be on the CSM. Maybe somebody in the audience is more aware of it, but is there like any black letter rule in there that being a dick like this is crossing?
I think just in the Eve, what's the word I'm looking for? The terms of conduct, right? I mean, in general, you're not supposed to talk down or belittle or abuse or talk disparagingly to other players, and it certainly is amped up on the CSM. You're even kind of held to that almost letter of the law with a fine-tooth comb sort of attitude even more, right? So yeah. Yep, I think so. So that's it's in the player conduct things that we all agree to when we play the game. I'm missing the term of that I'm looking for, but anyways, like I said, the CSM members doubly so, basically. All right. So anyways, there's the news. We will move on now to our interview. So so let me just take a quick little thing here. So what I've on Thursday shows here, usually it's a fairly slow news day, even like today, right? There's only a couple things. There's the patch notes. There's the MER was released, and the monthly economic report, and there's this other news. But Tuesday with the patch is usually the big news day. Monday after the weekend usually has a lot of battles and stuff. The Sunday, so certainly we dig in deep with the experts into stuff. Thursdays is a little bit, usually news slower. So I picked Thursday for me to do the show on a regular basis because I want to be able to try to bring on people to talk about Eve in different contexts from different points of view. Here in here in North America, at least in the U.S., there's a segment on that's kind of on radios and various places called the other side of the news. Maybe some of you guys have heard it. It's often a way to just kind of find either funny stories or interesting things that people are doing or things that are happening that maybe kind of make you pause and think, oh, okay, this is all right. That's kind of interesting. Maybe I might want to do this or that. Oh, maybe I want to travel there and look at that, or I could try something like that. It's really, kind of another way of looking at it is it's just a matter of perspective. So last couple of weeks we've done this. Started with myself, where I just kind of wanted to give my own personal perspective on, the war and losing the war. Last week I brought my wife on, and we talked about, perspective from a spouse, right? From what happens when you play this crazy game that takes so much time. And she has agreed to come on again as well. We'll talk some more in depth on some.
She didn't learn her lesson.
No, she did not learn her lesson. She did not learn her lesson. She's going to do it again.
I mean, how many there are women in Eve reactions did she get?
Yeah, there's none actually, but there were some audience members who went on to the YouTube and asked some good questions. So if you haven't listened to it yet, or you want to go over to YouTube and ask a few questions, we'll go through that and comb some of the questions. Or if you want to send it to me directly on Discord, find me, and we'll try and grab some questions, and we'll go through some of those things, and we'll just have another conversation. I think she kind of sees how the show goes now, and she thought more, after the show was done, she started thinking, it's like, oh, I should have said this, I could have talked about that. I think she was a little she had a little microphone problem. I think we've solved that. So anyways, we'll bring her back on. Anyways, so that leads us to tonight. So I wanted to bring on MDD. He's our guest, and we'll get to the introduction. Full disclosure, I've known MDD for a little while, but he has an interesting way of playing the game from my perspective. And I kind of like a real quick summary is, and I think he kind of represents a fairly large segment of players, right? He, he's played out in nullsec. He's done a bunch of different things. He's played for many years, and I'll let him kind of introduce himself here in a second. But he likes the pursuit of ISK, but sometimes avoids risk to a certain degree because I think it impacts his fun quotient. That's how I see him, right? And he goes back and forth between, these are his words, me time and group time, and I'll let him get into that. Anyway, so that's why I thought I'd bring him on, because I think a lot of people play like this on a fairly regular basis because they might have 2 hours or an hour, or the only time they can game is on Wednesday nights because who knows what's happening with the kids and the wife or whatever. So anyways, here's our guest tonight, MDD. Please introduce yourself, give us a little background history on how long you've played and all those fun things.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm MDD. I've been playing Eve. Well, I took a break for. I missed the Triglavian stuff, but other than that, I've been playing since 2008. So I'm one of the older people, old guard. And as Rundle said, I've been out in nullsec for a while. I've been a manufacturer. I was a T2 inventor for a while. Um, and I threw it away a long time ago, but at one point my son had printed off like a 50-page packet of the region maps, just because back in the days you didn't have giant monitors like we had now. And my toddler son got a hold of it and went crazy on it with crayons because he thought it was a coloring book, and that was a funny thing for me to hold for a long time. These days, I spend a lot of time doing high-sec incursions. That's the group time stuff, running it with the Work to Me community. And there's three major high-sec incursion communities: Work to Me, TDF, which is the Titanian fleet, and the third group is NGA, a bunch of Russian-speaking people. So I don't engage with them very much because I don't speak Russian.
What?
And what?
Come on.
Yeah. Nope.
You, a man of the world, you don't speak Russian. Unbelievable.
Nope. A little bit of German, a little bit of French. And then so that's as Rundle mentioned, I have me time and group time. So group time is when you're in a fleet now, and high sec incursion fleet will be like 40 people, all fighting NPCs on grid at the same time, flying sometimes in extremely expensive ships, marauders with 20 billion ISK worth of modules and stuff on them, and so you have to be careful so people don't lose them. And then when I have done that for an hour or two and I'm like, okay, I need to decompress for a while, then I'll go off and wander around in high sec looking for wormholes that go interesting places. and I know a fair amount about wormholes. And one of my pet peeves, I'll get it off the board right now, is and CCP does this too. And I'm like, come on, guys. So the space that has the drifters in it, the J space systems, there's a name for that. It's a Noikis. It's not a wormhole. The wormhole is that thing you use to get there. So when people talk
Ah.
about wormhole systems, wormhole system I can begrudgingly accept, but when they say I'm in a wormhole, I'm like, oh yeah, that only lasts for like 2 seconds, right?
Oh, yes. I love your. Well, so that's one of the things I know that drew you to Eve is that you are a man of specifics. You always have been, and Eve will you'll completely enjoy the specific aspects because it's very spreadsheet like, right? It's here's the
Yep.
actual things, here's everything. But I also know that when they don't get things specific or the players don't get things specific, that's the shit that drives you nuts.
Yes, yes. I
Which is
tell
a lot
people
of fun to watch sometimes, but
I tell people I have CDO, and they look at me funny and think it's the same disease as OCD, but the letters are in the right order.
yeah, okay. All right. So let's talk about the incursions. Do you run a Marauder yourself? I mean, because this is an area of gameplay that I have never done. I've heard lots about it. I mean, I've gone and run an incursion once or twice here or there when we're roaming or something, and we come across it. I might have done one or two, but
Mhm.
I really am kind of lost on how it works. So how would I join? Do I need to bring a 20 billion ISK Marauder? Like what?
Mhm.
How do you participate?
Okay, so CCP a while back instituted the Sansa incursion where they had special, stronger Sansa rats that would take over a whole constellation. So a whole group of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 stars would all be affected. And it used to be there were 3 high-sec incursions simultaneously, and as you alluded in the mirror at the beginning, it's a giant ISK faucet, and they tried to tone it down by cutting it down from 3 high-sec incursions to 1 high-sec incursion. So at any point in time right now, there's 1 high-sec incursion, 1 low-sec incursion, and up to 3 null-sec incursions. The incursion has each solar system has different classes of NPC NPE sites, we call them, and we run the Work to Me and TDF and NGA communities run the biggest, highest payout sites called the headquarters sites. There's one system in the constellation that has them, and you'll take a fleet of 40 in there, and that fleet will typically have 1 or 2 booster ships, so a Claymore and a Vulture, something like that, and then 5 or 6 or 7 logistic ships, and these are typically scimitars and basilisks and a couple of Lokis thrown in there, and then a bunch of ships that shoot things. So there'll be nightmares and vindicators with a handful of starter ships, and they're like Hyperions and Balgorns and Barguests and things like that. And then hopefully, a bunch of Marauders. When CCP made the Marauder change back in, I want to say March or April timeframe,
Somewhere in there. Yep.
all of the entire incursion community took note of this and said, "Holy!" Because up to that point, they were bringing in lots of nightmares and Lashaks and Vindicators, and because they were real high DPS ships. And then the Marauders came on board, and it's like, hey, these things they have even better DPS. So they started bringing in Chronoses and Paladins and Vargers. No Golems though. I'll get to that in a moment, and then they started fitting abyssal modules and dead space MWDs and things like that. And so that's when you end up taking a Kronos, which is like a 2.5 billion ISK hull, and you start dropping 10 15 billion ISK worth of modules on it to totally get that 5K wall hit, where you're doing 5,000 DPS on the field, which is amazing. But you don't start with that. You start with the starter ship. You come in with a shooty ship. So you go get a Hyperion, and if you go, the Wart to Me community actually has a web presence, and if you go to their website, it has a list of all the fits, and you can see what fit you start off with, and you bring it to fleet. And Wart to Me is a training community. Will help you get your fit set up. There's a lot of donation that goes on. We have people come in and they don't have much ISK, and people say, well, I've upgraded from the Hyperion to Vindicator, so here, take my Hyperion, and they'll give you a ship or they'll give you the modules for a ship or whatever, and then you'll join fleet and you'll fly around for a couple hours, and it's a lot like drinking from a fire hose at that point because things are happening. We're going from site to site. The sites are taking anywhere from 12 minutes on the high side down to like 5 minutes on the low side. So if you think about, just completing entire room full of things that are shooting at you in 5 minutes and then going to the next one, things happen fairly quickly. Uh, I have the ISK and the skills that I could bring a Marauder, and I probably will at some point. I haven't to date because if you start flying a Marauder, even if you have other ships in your hangar that you can bring to the field, the fleet commanders say bring a Marauder because they want that DPS. They want to bring it in because it improves the ISK per hour. With Marauders, we run ISK per hour numbers that are in the ballpark of 200 million ISK per hour, plus Concord LP on top of that. The
That's
payouts on
pretty good.
Yeah, the payouts for incursions are two-part. With each site, every member of the fleet will, if the fleet is properly composed, will get 31.5 million ISK. So it's like 31.5 million ISK every 6 or 7 minutes. So it comes in pretty quickly. At the same time, you will bank 7,000 Concord LP, but it's not awarded to you until the overall incursion concludes at the end of its 3 to 7 day run. So at the end of that, you'll get, 5 or 6 or 7, 800,000 Concord LP, and then you can go, buy Concord stuff with it. A lot of people buy implants and 6% implants and
Right.
things like that.
And just to make sure, Concord, to go to those NPC stations, they're not all over, right? Like they're kind of just in a few places, smattered around the cluster, right?
They're scattered around the cluster. I wouldn't say few. Last time I checked, I think there's like 40 or 50 Concord stations. They're pretty well spread out. There, at any point, you're probably only 7 or 8 jumps from a Concord station.
Okay, but it's not like finding a Caldari Navy or an
No,
MR.
no,
It is
no.
not like just like you're probably in the system or the next one next door, and there's 5 of them, sort of thing, right?
Right. Yeah. It's not. You're not going to be in a situation where some characters are where they can't. They've shot at the Mimitar guys too much, so they can't travel into Mimitar space because they get shot at by the NPCs there, right? And so
Right,
if you
right.
have Republic Fleet LP, you have kind of a problem because you can't go over there to redeem it.
Okay, so maybe not as rare as Sisters of Eve, but
No.
certainly not as common as the other main
Right.
empires, right? Okay, good.
Right. And more spread out. And they're not. The Caldari Navy faction stations are going to be mostly in the Citadel and the Forge, and you're
Right,
not going to find very many of them over in Derelict or whatever.
correct, right. But they're okay. Okay,
Um,
so we're talking
so
about LP.
yeah, that's the LP is awarded when the incursion completes, when it finishes its run, and that happens every 3 to 7 days. And I gave you a graphic if you wanted to throw that up now, Manic. The
NASCAR, that graphic.
the incursions can spawn in one of 98 high sec constellations, and that's what they are there. And we don't know where it's going to be. So when the incursion finishes, there'll be a 12 to 36 hour cooldown period where there's no high sec incursion, and then it'll start up in one of these other places. So then there's a mass movement of high value ships from where we just were, or where they may have moved. A lot of people move over into the MR area, no matter where they are. Like right now, we're in Sync Liaison in Bribier, which is a green one there. I don't know which one it is actually, but we're over there. And when this completes, they might go back into the MR area because you'll see roughly half of the places where it can spawn are in MR space, and so it makes sense to pre-position yourself over there. But and when the incursion finishes and then the next one spawns, people want to get to the next one. And that's where my wormholing comes in, because it turns out that most of the wormholes out there that you can find in HiSec take you from HiSec space to Anoikis. They take you to somewhere in J space. But there's a few of them that will take you to another place in known space. And there's a few of those that actually go from one HiSec system to another HiSec system. So these are like magic little organic stargates that take you from one high-sec place to another high-sec place. These are really cool. You talk about wormhole travel, and people almost always say, "No, I'm not going to do that because they don't want to risk their ship, down in some J space system somewhere, right?" And I have to tell people, "No, this is a direct high-sec to high-sec connection. There's no J space involved." And so there's an enormous amount of reputation building that has gone into this. A lot like Chiriba did with his selling of Titans and stuff like that. I have to
Right, right.
convince people, look, okay, come to this system. I found this high sec hole. It'll take you from here to there, And so over the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 months that I've been doing this, I've built up a reputation with Work to Me. And now it's ridiculous. The next incursion spawns and I'm getting emails and convos like, where's the hold? Where's the hold, MDD? Take me. And so I'm like, oh, wait, hold up. And it's profitable too because I don't charge for it. And for new guys that are coming in to Work to Me, I don't even take their money. I send it back to them. But for the regular Work to Me folks, they tip me for these holes. And the tipping's pretty good. In fact, our last move, I made 750 million ISK in one day just moving people.
So how long does that take you? All right. So okay, I have so many questions on the incursions, but
Mhm.
so uh, there's Warp to Me.
Yep.
There's couple, and there's two others, right? I think is what
TDF and
I.
NGA.
Okay. Don't know what do those stand for. Do you know?
TDF is the Titanian fleet, and I honestly, it's NGA is New Generation or something like that. I don't remember what. And they have um, channels in game. The
So
Work to
yeah,
Me
that's
channel
what.
is Work to Me Incursions. Is the channel is Work to Me
Okay,
Incursions.
exactly. So I can. That's where I. That's exactly what I was going to try and find out. If I want to go in the game, or
Hmm.
anyone listening, they can go in and try and find these. Is there an incursion, basic incursion channel, or
There
let's
is.
say let's say yeah. So I just kind of come in the game and I want to start somewhere to then go
O-
find these specialized channels. Where would I go? I'd go to the
Okay,
incursions
so
channel.
yeah, over in your neocon, click on the hat to bring up the whatever that thing is called, the agency. Sorry, and then in the agency, go into encounters, and then encounters go into incursions, and then in
Right.
incursions down at the bottom, there's a join chat, and that will take you to the CCC provided incursion chat.
Okay. Great.
And in there, you can ask, "Hey, how do I get to the Work to Me or TDF or NGA channels?" And somebody there surely will link you their channel if you can't remember it.
Right. Okay. And one other question that was from the audience: the spreadsheet, is that a personal spreadsheet like that, or is there a link to somewhere out on the web, or is that your own
That's
version?
that's mine. I made that up.
Oh, okay.
I That's based on partly on information from Eve University about incursions because Eve University has a list of all the constellations, and I took that and formatted it like this.
Okay. Good enough. All right, Gurav. Sorry, we're not going to be able to give you a link to that. Maybe if you want to try and find me on Discord, MDD. Is that okay if I share that
Sure, absolutely,
image?
absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I hereby release all copyright claim.
Okay. All right. So, Gaurav, find me on Discord, and I will copy that to you, or maybe we'll find somewhere to put it
Mm.
in Discord itself in one of the channels. So, if
And you'll
lots of
see
people log in.
also in there that 6 of those 98 have the word island on them. That means that they're a high sec section that you can't get to without going through low sec, and those are the ones that are a real pain in the butt for incursion runners.
Okay. So, one last question on the incursion. You
Mhm.
actually are you doing incursions yourself, or are you
Yes.
just kind of what role are you playing? I'm just like curious.
I typically bring a logistics ship. I started off with basilisks and scimitars, and now I'm part of the Warp to Me Command Corps. And the Warp to Me Command Corps can bring other ships, and in this case, I bring a Loki that has a lot of stuff on it. And I'm a logistics support guy for the most part.
Okay, so I know that that makes sense to me because I think when we played together out in Nullsec years and
Mm.
years and years ago, you were really big into logistics then as well.
Yeah,
So
I was
just
dying in sabers all the time.
yeah, exactly. So can you compare? Can you kind of just give me the comparison, give the audience comparison between being a logistics ship in a nullsec battle versus a logistics ship in an incursion? Like, is it kind of the same, or is it completely wildly different, or is there a pattern in incursions? I don't know
Okay,
where
so
does it go?
there's some similarities and there's some vast differences. So I'll go over some of the similarities. Is you're of course you're dealing with large numbers of people that you have to coordinate their activities and focus fire and move around together and things like that. And those are similar both in nullsec battles and in incursion battles. And logistics, you're having to follow in this both cases you're having to follow, where who are they trying to alpha off the field, and so you have to make sure you get those people alive, keep them alive, things like that. Things that are different is in a nullsec battle, you don't really know what the enemy's going to do. I mean, you think you do, but there's those are people, and as we know, people are unreliable. Whereas in an incursion, you're fighting against a programmed NPC, and we've been fighting them long enough that we have a pretty good idea what they're going to do next and what ships they're going to bring next. Now, we may not know exactly who they're going to attack on our side, but we know there's going to be, 5 battleships in the next wave, kind of thing.
Right. So that gives you a bit of a leg up on that part, right?
Hmm.
From a healing, managing DPS, alpha, right? The alpha strike capability when you're in nullsec, um, trying to make sure that you have all your heal
Your
two up,
reps,
two down, and your reps, or you pre-rep someone, or
right?
you're
Pre-locking people and all that
pre-locking
stuff.
people, or certain
Yep.
ships are always going to be, you want to make sure they remain on the field, blah blah blah. Is kind of
Yep.
those rules. Like if here's why I'm asking, because if someone is listening, or if I want to come in as a logistics ship and I'm coming from nullsec, do I already have more or less the skills, the mindset, the play style, or am I going to have to drastically change how I play to
No,
adapt into?
no. If you're coming from a nullsec fleet environment, you're going to have a leg up, a substantial leg up, I would say, over someone who's just a new player coming into incursions, a new Eve player, because you have already been exposed to the fact that, hey, I'm playing with other people. We've got to coordinate things. I know how to look at my broadcast history window, which is something that you do in both environments, right? You look to see who's broadcasting for shields and cap and things like that. And so those are skills that a logi in nullsec could easily bring to bear as a logi in an incursion battle fight, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. All right, sounds good. And I would assume then also kind of similar for DPS, similar for
Hmm.
command ship people. So if you're coming from nullsec, or if you're a little burnt out from nullsec, you want to go do some incursions, or if you're a rookie, there's avenues into this gameplay either way, right? And
Right.
speaking of rookies, speaking of new players, Hildebrand in the audience said, "Don't forget the rookie incursions community." I didn't even know that existed. So, hey,
Well, the rookie, I didn't mention the rookie incursions community because the rookie incursions community doesn't do headquarters site. Remember, I mentioned in incursions, it's a whole constellation, and
hmm
individual systems have different classes of sites. There's vanguard sites, assault sites, headquarters sites, and I think there's a couple others. I don't remember. I think a staging site. I'm not sure. And the rookie incursions community, if I remember correctly, runs assault sites. And so they're in a completely different system in the constellation, and they're doing a different thing.
Right. So, okay. So, one last question on incursions, and I'm going to get to the wormhole stuff because I actually
Mhm.
find the wormhole stuff rather fascinating. So, I have seen in a couple systems where there's like this headquarters citadel. I don't know, an Athenor or something. I don't know what it is. Depends what
Mhm.
it is, and that just spawns in a system. Is that part of the incursion mechanics, or is that just a different part?
I I think what you're recalling is a forward operating base, FOB,
Yes. Yes.
and that is not incursions. It's a different NPC mechanism that CCP has implemented.
That's what
And
I am thinking about. Yes, it's like
yeah,
you read my mind. Yeah. Okay. So if I was just curious because I've seen these in some systems. I'm like, what the? Where's all these NPCs coming from? And you just look on and there's this new NPC station. And you're like, oh, that's kind of odd. That's kind of weird. But
hmm
yeah. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
you can usually tell you're in an incursion constellation a couple of different ways. First off, there's a whole new channel you get. It's
Yes.
like a local channel. You can't dismiss it. It's a huge pain in the ass because when you come from outside of the constellation into the constellation, that channel spawns up and it immediately grabs focus. So if you're in the middle of typing something in your corporate channel or a private chat or whatever, half your sentence is in this other window all of a
Been
sudden.
there, done that. Yep.
The other thing is that the incursion constellation has effects that it does.
Right.
So you'll have worse shield and worse damage output and things like that.
And better warp speed or something,
Well, it depends on what's going on.
or
Usually not better.
whatever they are. Yeah.
Right.
Do they
Um,
stack with the weather, or do they? Is it programmed where the incursions and the weather never collide? I guess. Do you know?
well, it doesn't happen anymore because there is no more weather in high sec, right? The weather's only in null sec.
That's true. Actually, good point. But
Now,
I'm thinking
but
nullsec. Would weather and incursions collide in
I
nullsec then?
I
Do you know?
believe they're independent, but I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And in HiSec, the other way you know that you're in an incursion system is all the normal residents of the system that you're in are just bitching mightily because all of a sudden their mining sites have really nasty, hard rats in them, like 100 times worse than the normal rats that are in them. And so they lose their procurers, or they're off, trying to do stuff and they can't do it because all of a sudden it's super dangerous. That's one of the effects of the incursion, is it makes the normal rats in the system really dangerous.
Right. Yeah. That's where I was going with the stacking, right? Because that could
Mhm.
really be, holy shit. That could make a
Yeah,
super, and super super type of rat, almost like a
yeah,
super rat, right?
yeah.
So one question from the audience: do the mothership sites exist? And I guess someone says, do you mean
Yes,
the
yes.
Kildani?
Yeah, the Kundalini Manifest is
There
the
you go.
headquarters site, and so what happens is the incursion spawns, and then you have to go run some vanguard and assault sites to grind down the influence number that starts off at 100% in order to make it less dangerous, because we don't even run headquarters sites at the beginning because it's just too dangerous. And then after you've been running sites for a variable number of days, the site will go from established to withdrawing. And if you look in game at the current incursions out there, you can see there's 5 incursions running, right? And you can see the um, Williquette constellation that it has is established. That's the HiSec one. But if you look down at the nullsec one, there's 2 mobilized and 1 withdrawing. So when it gets to mobilized, the mothership is coming. I'm not sure. I think the mothership is there, or maybe it's coming. But when it's withdrawing, it means you have 24 hours left, and the mothership is there the whole time I'm withdrawing. And oh, by the way, you have to kill the mothership. If you don't kill the mothership, nobody gets their LP payout. And so it used to be there were ugly fights amongst the communities. The worked to me and TDF and NGA would fight over who was going to pop the mom and win, and it just was nasty. But now we have kind of a handshake deal where we take turns popping the mothership, so that everybody gets a chance. Because the mothership is, you use a larger fleet. Instead of 40 members in fleet, you use 60 to 80. I think, I don't remember for sure. And there is a loot that drops in the mothership. It can sometimes be some nice blueprints. It's not like a Revenant blueprint, but it's nice stuff. And we usually have a raffle. Everybody that was in the fleet, we draw a random number, and that guy gets it. So
So you're not so incursions. You're doing incursions, and in the meantime, you go searching for wormholes.
right. So
So
wormholes,
walk through that sort of me time, right? So
yeah.
like, how much
So
time do you spend doing it? What kind of ships? And is
I
it all
use
driven? Do you really try to help with the incursion people, or is this for anyone? I can move an orca, help me move an orca from here to there, or like?
I there's actually, well, we touched on FOBs, and I know one guy that does FOBs. He multi boxes a fleet of 20 something ships, and he's one of my premium customers who's outside of incursion work, and I sometimes find wormholes to help him move his fleet around. In fact, early on in my career of finding wormholes, I got him a hole that took him from Metropolis space over to Conid space, I think. Saved him 35 jumps across 20 something ships, and he was very, very happy. Uh,
I don't doubt it.
yeah, it was a fleet of a bunch of battleships and finished with an obelisk. But yeah, wormholes. So wormhole spaces. So there's in the way I look at wormhole spaces, there's 5 types. There's high sec, low sec, null sec, J space, and trig space. And for those of you that are like, what about Thera? I just lump Thera in with J space. It's just a special kind of J space. And so every wormhole goes from one space to another. Most of the holes that we in high sec and low sec and null sec encounter are holes that go from that space to J space and vice versa. Now, if you happen to live in a Noicus and you're in a C3 or whatever with a static high sec and all that stuff, that means you have a whole lot of J space to J space holes and a handful of ones that go from the J space you're in to someplace interesting. It turns out that the kind of holes that I want to find most of the time are A641 signatures. A641 signatures are high sec holes. They're very rare. Based on my statistics, they account for something like little less than 4% of all of the high sec holes out there. So, on average, you have to look at 25 holes to find one. and if you're lucky, they go someplace useful. A lot of high sec holes uh, go only a few jumps away, 10 jumps away, so they're not super useful. I personally have found a high sec hole that goes from the system I'm in to the system one over, and I was really quite cross at that point. Um, So I'm looking for the A641 holes, and you can identify them by doing a show info once you find the hole. But you have to go around in the systems, and I'm going around in buzzards and asteros. They have different characters, and one of the characters can run buzzards, and the other character can't. But they're rigged for maximizing my probe strength. So I go out there with Sisters rig, Sisters launchers and Sisters probes, and probe out a system, look and see what's in this system. And of course, you start off with a bunch of unknown SIGs, and then some of them resolve to combat sites, and some of them resolve to data sites, some of them resolve to relic sites, and some of them resolve to wormhole sites. And then once you get the wormhole site pinned, then you fly to it and look and see what does this look like. And if it's an A641 hole, or in my case, I also find out where the low sec and null sec holes go to, because I actually have people that sometimes want to go, like, to Solitude or something. And so I'll figure out where the two endpoints are, and then I have a shared folder that I record them in a certain way, and then I have clients essentially that I have granted access to that folder, and then they can see where the holes are and move around. And then most of the people that use the A641 holes, though, they don't have access to the folder, but they're, when they know I'm out there, and so they'll be like, okay, we're at this, domain incursion, and I want to go to Jita. And in case anybody has looked recently, now that the Trigs have taken over Niaja, going from domain to Jita is 40, 50 jumps, depending on where you are, right?
Right. Long way.
And long way. And I tell people all the time, before you head out on long trips, at least ring me up and see if I have something. A lot of the time I won't, but sometimes I have some really nice holes. I try to find, when especially when we're in domain space, I try to find holes that take us to Jita space, so that that 45 jump trip can be 8 or 10 or 16. And oh, by the way, skips over Ohide and Odin and Nuadama and Savala and Baal and Delta, not Delta, but anyway, yeah, those systems where we know the gankers tend to hang out, because, again, people are in expensive ships and they don't want them to be blown up from underneath them, just flying around. So that's the 1-2 punch. Is I make the trips shorter in numbers of jumps and generally safer, because we're going around the places where we know the gankers hang out.
Gotcha. So on average, um, like how many systems, do you do this like just for a few hours a day? Do you sometimes it's 10 hours a day, and like
It's
while you're
it's
bored, or like hit
yeah,
or
it's like
miss? Like,
it's like my version of free cell, or bejeweled, or a crossword puzzle. It's not for everybody at all, and I know that. But for me, it's like a little puzzle that it activates the dopamine in my head somehow. And so going from system to system and searching for these wormholes and pinning them is relaxing to me. I can do it for hours and not be fatigued at all. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, I'm done with this." Now, I will say, when I tend to concentrate, I will do it for a couple hours a day, just whatever. But if I'm in the downtime between focuses, when we're not actually in an incursion focus and we're waiting for one to spawn, I will work hard at trying to find them all, so that I'm prepared. When it comes time to move, I can look at my, 6 or 7 or 8. I think at one point I had 10 A641 holes that were active at the same time across all of Eve, which is essentially all of them. In all of Eve, at any one point in time, there might be a dozen or 15 of these holes. And I'm trying to find them all between the focuses, so that I know how to move my friends in our fleets quickly from one to the other.
and it's really per day, right? I mean, these just for
Yeah,
the
they don't.
audience. I mean, these follow the standard wormhole rules,
Right,
right? Which
right.
which means there's a time duration, there's
A mass.
a mass amount that once you close the hole, it's gone,
hmm
et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
Right? It's
all the A641 holes are very large mass, so you can cram freighters through them, but they are less than 24 hours. So they're valuable and perishable.
Yeah, because I know that So, like, what kind of ship do you use? Let's get into the mechanics.
Hmm.
Are you one of these guys that can like scan down things in 10 seconds? Like, do any of these holes require like max skills? Like, there's certain anomalies. I don't know if any of the wormholes themselves are, but there are certain things that you need to have max skills, and you need to have
Right,
the right ship and all the bonuses to even get a chance to get it to 100%. Like,
right.
talk
So
to me about some of those mechanics, because I think.
okay, every worm, actually every signature has a level associated with it. I did, you, if you before you actually pin it, before it's actually resolved, if you hover over it in your probe screen, you can actually see it'll say level 1, level 2, level 3, 4, and so forth.
Hmm.
And the higher the level is, the better skill or stronger probe strength you need to have in order to resolve those. A641s are level 1, so they're pretty easy to pin. But for example, there's a class of high 6 C5 and high 6 C6 wormholes, M555 and B449, I think, off the top of my head. And those are level 3 wormholes. And in order to find those, if you have, I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, I want to find a particular type of JSpace hole," and so I'll say, "Okay, I'll try to find one for you." If you're trying to find one of these high 6 to C5 or C6 holes, yeah, you're going to need to have probably a rigged for grav capacitor ship and maybe some sisters uh, gear to go with it in order to get your probe strength high enough in order to hunt these down. I have incredibly high skills. Now, I do not carry virtues around in my head, which is another way. Virtue implants will help you with finding stuff like this. I don't have those. I have saviors because I use it on my Lokis. But I still have a rigged buzzard. So buzzard gets a probe strength bonus. The rig gives it a bonus. I run a sister's probe launcher and sister's probes. And even with all that strength, I will have a hard time pinning down some of the um, drifter data sites. I can't remember what they're called. Maybe somebody can type it in chat, but I don't remember what it's called. And I'll have to really work to pin those down if I'm trying to pin down the data sites.
Okay. Um, and do you run some of those data? Just as a side note, do you run some of those data sites when you
Some
find
of the
them, or?
yeah, the I run the I try to run the covert data sites because they can have some pretty good rewards in them. They're also a little bit dangerous in that you're gonna come on grid and there'll be 5 cans and you have to hack them to get into them, and you only have a limited amount of time because in a minute or two, an unknown amount of time, uh, bad NPCs come on the grid and blow up everything on grid and do area of effect damage that will blow up your buzzard. I've lost a number of buzzards. Yes, I have.
Yeah,
Um,
I lost one too. It was not a fun day because I didn't know what I was doing, and I lost it, and I lost a lot of shit. I had been doing a lot of the. I think it was one of the special event ones, and I had a cargo hold full of shit, and I lost it. And I was like, "Big F you," and I'm done
oh
for the day.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was not happy.
yeah.
Ghost sites.
Ghost sites. Thank you. That's what I was trying to remember. It's over. Yeah, it's over. If you fail the can, yeah. Well, when they warp in, they blow up all the cans. So at that point, there's no point sticking around. But hopefully you survive. Is the problem is that if you have the kind of a ship that is good at hacking, they tend to be really paper thin frigates, and so they have a hard time surviving the area effect that comes off those guys.
Yeah, you forgot to push the button, didn't you, Manicsar? It's not. It's muting. I can't hear him. Sorry. All right.
Mm,
Sorry, everyone. Yeah, he's having. Normally in the production role, we normally don't speak, but sometimes. Maybe you'll get it figured out. Sorry about that.
mm.
Little technical issue.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's all right. It's all right. So, um, yeah. So, okay. All right. Well, that's good. I don't know if anyone has any questions about the wormhole stuff. I mean, it's I've gone. I can. The thing that you just said, like, drive most people nuts, but you find it relaxing. To me, that's kind of that nails it home about Eve, right? I have a character which has reasonably good skills. I can only go scan for stuff for so long before I want to bang my head through a wall, right? I can't, I can only, it has to have a reason for me to do it.
Mhm.
I can't do it like you do it, which is why I find it fascinating. Like, it's just another person in Eve who has found a way to play the game and enjoy it, doing this thing that most people would say, fuck that shit. I
Mm.
ain't doing it. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and you found a way to make some money out of it and enjoy it. And I
Yeah.
think that's, for me, that's, to me, that's the breadth and the depth of Eve. And that's what makes this game kind of so
Mhm.
interesting, is that every once in a while, there's just this little area and someone's like, hey, I love doing it. Come talk to me
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah. But I've done a lot of stuff. I mean, you go back and if you want to go back way, way, way back in time when we had to ship titanium out to nullsec to build the crap that we are building out there, we had to do it through module compression. Those of you that have only been around 4 or 5 years, this will be news to you. But it used to be you would build stuff in high sec, build modules, and then you'd ship it out to low sec and reprocess it out there in order to get the titanium off of it. And uh, there was not many characters were involved with it, but at one point you talk about the mirror. At one point, my character, I could point to part of the monthly economic report and say that's my character's doing, because I was going and collecting all of the titanium that was being mined in the entire region of Derelict and compressing it into passive targeters and loading them up whole freighter loads full of passive targeters and trucking them over to a high sec border system so that we could put it in the jump freighter and jump it out into nullsec. And so you go and look at the mining in Derelict and be like, yep, that was my character buying all that stuff.
That's cool. That's neat. That's certainly neat. All right, so we got a couple of little questions here. Let's just stay on the wormhole stuff here for a second, right?
Mhm.
Do you have any competition? Someone wants to know if you have competition.
um, I would say I don't know who they are if I have competition. I'm sure there are other characters out there that are looking for the holes, and there are occasions where I see members of the TDF community using holes that I have found to move from one focus to the other. And so I assume somebody over there has found the hole, but I don't see the organization behind it. You'll see one character bringing his ship or ships through, right? Whereas if in work to me, when it comes time to move, I'm moving 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ships at a time, different characters through holes, and so it's a organized activity.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Still not working. Oh, Manicsar is going to try and speak. We'll get that solved later, Manicsar. Um, unless you want to type it out, you want to type in podcast, I'll ask the question for you then. So just on the incursions, Space Gator asked, can you casually participate in incursions, right? It seems like it lasts for days. You should be in the community, or can you like show up once every couple months and just kind of do it because you're missing it or whatever? Is it
Abs-
that?
it's absolutely doable. However, I will say, excuse me. So let me reiterate. Work to me is a new bro friendly learning community. We do encourage new bros to come in, and we will teach them all about how to run high sec incursions, and we will teach you as much as you want to know. And if you only want to get in and run for a couple sites and be done with it, that's fine with us. However, there are only 40 people in fleet at any one point in time, and we have a lot more than 40 people who are interested in running them. So we have a wait list. And during the very popular time of the day, your linger time in the wait list could be an hour or 2 or 3. I mean, it could be quite long. Now, most of the time, the time you spend on the wait list is measured in like 30 minutes or so. Not bad.
Gotcha. Okay. So, I mean, sure, you can be casual about it, but you might have to take a bit of a time hit to be waiting.
Right.
Um,
If you come in
yeah.
Saturday, afternoon U.S. time, which is about our peakest time because that's evening in Europe and during the afternoon in the U.S., your wait time could be quite long. On the flip side, if you come in Tuesday at 10 o'clock Central Time U.S., it's dead. You'll get into fleet almost instantly.
Okay. Good to know. So, if you want to take it up and you just want to know what it's like and If you got some midweek time or something, then and you want to wait around, maybe might even be some more people to have a little free time to help you out as well. I'm guessing, right? There's
Mhm.
obviously people to help you there as well. So
Yeah, I'm looking at our wait list right now, and we have 2 people waiting for Logi slots, and the DPS and Sniper and Marauder queues are empty. So if you brought any of those ships, you would be in fleet almost instantly
So right
excellent.
now,
right now.
So like that's right now. Yeah, right now that would be 8 o'clock Central U.S. time. So like, so is that like one? Was it one p.m. or 1:00 Eve time, right?
Yep.
Things right now. So yeah. All
so I
right.
think I
Well,
got my mic worked out at the end of the show.
Just in time.
One thing I wanted to go over was that I know we talked about this back when the changes were made to the bookmarks, but you're able to run the service because you can allow people to subscribe to your bookmarks.
Um, well, there are a few people, about 20 or so, that I let have direct access to the bookmarks because I want them to be able to use the bookmarks when I'm not online. And so, I trust them. I even have a couple. There's 2 or 3 other characters that I actually let manipulate the bookmarks. I let them make bookmarks. So I've taught them, here's how you find the holes, and here's how I want them recorded in the folder. And so there's those people. Most of the time when I'm letting people do the bookmarks, I'm doing it as a warp in service. I make a fleet and I put in the fleet MOTD. Okay, you're going to go to this system, you're going to warp to this character, you're going to have your micro warp drive and afterburner turned off because anybody who's ever jumped through a wormhole knows that they're mass sensitive and those things make the mass consumption higher. And then when you jump through the wormhole, you're going to end up in this other system on the other side. And then from there, go on your way.
Awesome.
Um, so I do it that way for a couple of reasons. The first of which was reputation. I, it's possible for people to screw you over pretty badly, jumping you through a wormhole if you don't trust them and you don't pay careful attention on where you're going. And so, because of that, I wanted people to understand, look, this is a hole that I have checked out personally, and I'm staking my reputation on getting you to the right place. If you just throw up a folder up there that other people can manipulate and can add stuff to, you kind of lose that reputation aspect. And that also helps because a lot of people don't understand that these are direct high sec holes. And so, they get there and they're like, once I jump through, who do I jump to next? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You're going to jump through this hole and you're going to be in perimeter. By the way, I've had holes that go into perimeter and they're really exciting. Or you're going to be, whatever system you're going to be in. You're going to be in high sec on the other end.
Nice.
have you ever wanted to expand that high sec to null sec when you find a high sec to a null sec one, and then reach out to that alliance or coalition or
I have.
corporation and
I
say, hey, I found this for you?
I have, and quite often when I jump through a high sec to null sec hole, if there happens to be somebody in local, I'll chat them up. At least I'll try to chat them up. Most of the time, they don't respond at all, and sometimes they respond in languages that I don't speak. But
Like
just
missile and laser fire, you mean?
no, 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 like in Russian or
Okay,
German or
okay.
something. Um, and just to let them know, hey, there's a hole that takes you from your nullsec place to this highsec place. Are you interested in knowing about it? To date, nobody's taken me up on it, but at least I let them know. I even found a while back a hole to it wasn't 1DQ, but it was a system directly adjoining 1DQ. And when I found that system, I was like, holy crap! Uh-oh, I think we lost Rundle. I think Rundle fell off.
Well, he did. We
Oh,
just continue.
okay.
He'll jump
Anyway,
back in.
I found this hole that went from a high sec system to this system right next to 1DQ, and this is when the siege of 1DQ was going on. And I thought, oh man, this is probably a terribly valuable hole, and I don't know anybody who's involved in that fight.
Absolutely. Oh,
Well, ding dong, I accidentally moved myself around in Discord because I was clicking around, so sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. What I was saying, Rundle, is that you would ask me about holes into nullsec, and
Right.
one time there was a time. It's been about 2 or 3 months ago now, where I found a high sec to nullsec hole that it didn't go into 1DQ, but it went into a system directly adjoining 1DQ. And when I found it, I was like, oh my, this is a tremendously valuable hole to somebody. Unfortunately, I don't know who that somebody is.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe at the time it might have not been. It probably was very useful, but once you got in there, probably didn't know what we wouldn't know what to have done with it. But yeah, who knows? Okay, all right. Manicsar, you're on the air now. Any final questions? We've been at this for about an hour now. I think audience has asked most of the questions. I've asked most of mine. Do you have any final questions?
No, I'm good. If you want to
Yeah,
take us out.
I was gonna write one last thing in chat here. That's the character that I just wrote there, MDD Teller. That's the character that I have in the Incursion community, and you can hit me up for questions about Incursion stuff or wormhole seeking. And if you need a hole to someplace special, I'll entertain it at least. I can't guarantee I'll find you a hole there, but I'll listen.
Okay. Yeah, that was probably going to be my final question. How do people get a hold of you? Find MDD Teller, and he's obviously in some of the Warp to Me channels and stuff. He's talked about it, so you can probably find him there as well. And so I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show.
Sure thing.
Thanks for information on incursions and wormhole finding and just a general chat. And yeah, appreciate it. All right, so that'll be the show for tonight. And thank you very much for listening. And we will see you later, folks.